Hello there, Arda Scholars. Welcome to 2024. I hope everybody's doing well in this new year, and I look forward to spending some time with you all throughout the year on hopefully what is going to be numerous videos and chances to talk to you about MESBG. So I wanted to start this year by actually talking about the last big event that I enjoyed in 2023, and that was the Desolation of Minas Lothian. That was a Richmond MERV event up in Virginia area. It was a 1 day, 3 round, 800 point event that was the Saturday after Black Friday, so Thanksgiving weekend. So it was actually a fun event. Joe and I went up there together. I was hoping to be able to do this with him, but our schedules have just not been able to mix up. And as you can see, this is January, and I'm talking about an event from November. So like I said, it was a 1 day, 3 round event. I'm just going to go through my 3 games real quick, talk about what the 3 scenarios were that we played, as well as what my army was. So I have been trying to play around with a couple armies lately that I haven't had a lot of time to really try. So I took Isengard to this event, and Isengard I've played before, as if you've listened to any of my events that I've talked about in the past, especially at the beginning of January last year. I was playing the Assault on Helm's Deep Legendary Legion, and then a couple of my events that I did it as well. But I haven't taken true Isengard itself, where I was just bringing the named heroes and building an army around it. So this was an opportunity I felt where I could finally go ahead and actually do that and have some fun. Of course, now the downside with playing evil is that all your heroes are going to most likely have one fate, which in my case is what happened outside of my leader. So I'm not going to give you my whole army composition, but I will talk about the key parts. So I had Saruman mounted on a horse, who would be my leader. I had Grima, but I kept Grima on foot. I had Lurtz, I had Maher, and I had Snaga, Orc Captain. Now, this was one where I actually did a battle report, and it'll come out later on this year, where I tested this army out and was really impressed with how it worked. So I built this army with the thought process of the whole thing needs to synergize well together. And Joe was kind of iffy about me putting Snaga in because he's an orc. But my thought process is that you have Saruman, who is a very expensive investment, especially if you have mounted, and as well if you take Grima. So usually if you take Saruman, folks take Grima. Well, that's over 200 points right there, just with 2 models. So that's a quarter of my points. So I was looking for a way to add some cheap might, which is what Snaga brings, as well as some cheap models. Because while Uruk-Hai are great, they are a bit expensive when it comes to taking their individual models. That being said, Isengard warriors, or Uruk-Hai warriors, are some of the best models in the game. So I went ahead and I thought about doing Dunlin, but I don't actually have any Dunlin models, and I didn't want to borrow any from Joe again, because he's lent me some models a few times now for events. So I went ahead and went with Snaga, who I actually have. So I brought with him 6 orcs, which, that's kind of what I thought I would need. It was enough. It was what I could fit in. 3 of them were just shield guys, and 3 of them had spear and shield. So just plain Jane orcs for, the base cost of a Minas Tirith warrior with no upgrades, and they all have shields. And my big thing with them is I can throw them on edges, and I can have them shield, and that is where I'm really going to want them. And then I also had a banner, so they could be affected by the banner. Fight 3, not so great, but they just kind of have to survive. And then having 3 of them with spears, I can go ahead and throw them in and help them support with an Uruk-Hai in a situation where I don't have a pike, or I want the pike that I do have to go and be 3 deep somewhere to help me get a kill or ensure a victory or something of that matter. So that was my thought process behind taking Snaga and his 3 guys. So, Snaga, or 6 guys, sorry. So Snaga and his 6 orcs combined were, I think, just around 100 points. So not bad. So when you're talking 200 points for your leader and his little minion, and then another 100 for one of your warbands, not bad at all, And then, like I said, I had Maher and Lurtz. And this is one of the ones I went back and forth with again. Maher or Vrasku. Now, Joe likes Vrasku. Now, I have nothing against Vrasku. It's just that shooting for me never really pans out, especially with the 50-50 department of 4-ups. If you've watched any of my battle reports, you know for a fact that I fail miserably when it comes to 50-50 shooting. If it's 50-50 shooting, I'm hitting in the 25 to 33% range. It's just how it is for me. And that's why if I do take heavy shooting armies, it's usually 3-up shot values, because even then, at 66%, I'm usually only scoring in the 40 to 45% range. I don't know what it is. It's just me and shooting, for whatever reason, I don't do very well. So I'm already mentally predisposed to not like Vrasku. Not saying that Vrasku's not good. Vrasku is one of the best mid-tier heroes in the game for what he can bring you. But I want my army to also be together. That's the other thing with this list, is I don't want Vrasku sitting back for a few turns having to wait to and then try to catch up, because you can't move and shoot, as we know with crossbows. So I didn't take Vrasku, I went with Maher. The other reason being Maher's a 3-attack hero, so him coupled with Lotr is 2 3-attack heroes. Not bad. Now, the weakness of my arm naturally is going to be the fact that I only have 1 striker in Lotr, but at this point, I'm not even worried about striking. My whole thought process with my army is simply to get movements and combats with my heroes against literally warriors to try and overwhelm and kill as many guys as possible. I'm not looking to try and go toe-to-toe with somebody like an Aragorn or an Elendil or a Gilgalad or any of the other big-named heroes that are out there, okay? I'm looking to maybe tie them up, maybe do a little bit of damage if I can, and then just eat your troops, because my defense 6, strength 4 guys are primarily that's what they're there for. So looking back at my list, that's why I have Lotr, and that's why I have Maher. 2 3-attack heroes that have some might that could affect their dice rolls to win a fight or to make sure I get a wound off. So having 2 strength 5 guys in combat, both with 3 attacks, I like that idea. That was more that synergy. Now, Grima, and this is how I played Grima for the entire event. I'll say that now. I did not put Grima in an enemy warband. I left Grima in my warband because my army, again, I wanted it all together. So I actually had an Uruk-Hai drummer, which some folks were like, really, that's kind of an interesting take. But it worked, because while Snaga, Saruman, and Grima and the orcs were not affected by the drummer, I usually used the drum just in situations that primarily included the Uruk-Hai. So I wasn't too worried about the fact that the orcs and Grima and Saruman are getting left behind. That being said as well, Saruman's on a horse, so my foot guy is moving 6 plus 3 being 9 inches. Saruman still moves faster. So he kept up. Grima was the one where it was kind of iffy, but usually I deployed, if I knew I was in a position where I wanted to use the drum, I deployed Grima like as far forward as I could, so he could move his 6 inches, and then the drum guys would surpass him and be able to cover him against shooting in the subsequent shoot phase. So it worked out real well, in my opinion, doing it that way. So then I also had, I think I already mentioned I had banner and a shield. Or I had a banner with a shield. Then I had, I don't know, I think I had 10 crossbows. Yes, I had 10 crossbows. So that's actually the total number of crossbows I had. So that's why I had 10, exactly. I also had 3 berserkers, and then the rest was just a scattering of warriors with either shield or pike. Whole purpose of having just 3 berserkers is, while they're great with their 2 attacks, they are only defense 5. Their defense 6, again, is only against shooting, don't forget. So I don't want to have too much defense 5 in my army. I want to have enough defense 6 where I can put, a warrior, an Isengard, or an Uruk-Hai warrior. I keep saying Isengard. My bad. So if I do that again, I'm referring to Uruk-Hai. An Uruk-Hai warrior on an edge and have him shield and be the defense 6 and hold up, because pikes are defense 5, crossbows are defense 5, even the orcs with shields are defense 5. And I just want to say I did make a mistake. I had 4 orcs with spear and shield and 2 orcs with shield. So I had 4 orcs that could go up and support, and then allow my pikes to do the whole 3 deep like I talked about. So not a bad way to spend a few points on a, it's fight 3, it's strength 3, but it's another dice in the fight, and they can be affected by the banner. So not bad at all. That's why I did that. So my army needed to kind of function as a unit. I had Saruman, who was going to do some spell casting, and this is actually the first time in a long while that I've taken a big spell casting hero. So it was a lot of fun just playing with a big spellcasting hero. So Saruman being the big spellcasting hero that he is, Grima, again, I did not deploy Grima in my enemy's warband because I didn't want him to just get charged and tied up all game. I wanted to keep him in the middle of my guys, surrounded, so he wasn't an easy target to get picked on, and then just use his 6-inch bubble to mess with my opponent and his ability to do heroics. And I'll tell you now, just a little spoiler, it worked pretty darn well. So then I have Lotr and Maher, who I wanted to keep close together, so if a need be, I could go have them tag team something big, like a troll or something where maybe I go ahead and spend that point of might to strike with Lotr, but I don't have to worry about my opponent striking. So that's why I say something like a troll, a troll, I don't know, like a great beast of Golgoroth, something like that can't strike back at you. But you need to strike up in order to make sure you can win and get the surround it, get the trap, get the higher fight value, roll the 6 and win automatically, that kind of thing. And then Snagga was there. Snagga was literally just my might mule. I literally just wanted him to be there to provide cheap might and cheap troops, as I've already mentioned before. So I have Saruman's might to channel if I need to. I have Saruman's might to might up a spell. I have Saruman's might to do a movement if I really need to. And then Snagga's might is there purely to do movements, As I said, he's a might mule. That way Maher's and Lurtz's might, which are more valuable in combat, is there to be used in combat. So that was my army composition. 38 total models. Not bad. Sands, Saruman, Grima, and 7 orcs. The rest were all Uruk-Hai. So fight 4, strength 4, fight 5, strength 5 with heroes across the board. Pretty darn good. And it worked out. So my first round was against Chris. I'm not sure what his last name is, so we'll just go with Chris. He was playing Kingdoms of Khazad-dûm with Durin, King's Champion. I want to say he didn't take Marden. I think he took a Dwarf King. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, because usually people take Marden as the third hero because Marden is a good might mule, just like Snagga was for my army. But I think he took the King, which I think is actually pretty smart in my opinion, due to the fact that it's got a higher fight value and has a second point of will. I think they have throwing axes too. Don't quote me on that. If they do, we didn't use them. If it's an upgrade, no big deal. But I do know that you can get throwing axes. So anyway, we played Lords of Battle, and he had a very fleshed out army with troop numbers. So 38 models, in my opinion, at 800 points is pretty good for a solid army like mine, because you're, like I said, Saruman and Grima, a lot of points right there, and then you're basically playing with like elite tier troops or mid elite tier or lower, whatever you want to consider. Like a fight 4, strength 4, defense 6 guy is pretty solid. I mean, that's going to beat most basic troops when it comes to like Rohan, Minas Tirith, Mordor, Ingmar, any of the evil men. So very, very good. But also because of that, they're harder to get higher model counts. But anyway, back to the game. So we played Lords of Battle. He had a higher model count. I think he had like 44, 45, something like that, which was crazy. So the only downside to Kings of Khazad-dûm is unless you take Vault Warden teams, you're not going to get any supports, and that's exactly where he was the entire game. So we deployed. We exchanged some bow shots. I don't think he wounded or killed anything. He might have killed something in shooting, but my shooting had a better chance of doing stuff because I targeted his defense 6 and defense 5 rangers and dwarf warriors with bow. And my strength 4 crossbows did some good there. When we went to get into combat, it basically was a giant slugfest. I really enjoyed it. It was a good game. He is a new player. I think he said it's like his third or fourth game ever. So I spent most of the game, and I don't want to talk like I'm talking down or anything, but explaining things to him from my perspective, like my thought process. That's kind of one of the cool things I like about like teaching a new player. Is like you can show somebody like some ideas and like show them your thought process, and usually when you start doing that, it starts sparking their thought processes on how to play an army and how to play a game, and it really is cool because you can have like a really what do you call it? There's a word for it. A really organic. That's it. A really organic conversation and talk and game. It's really fun. I know someone out there's probably rolling their eyes, but hey, it's my thought. You have that ability to really have like a first time perspective look on things, which can trigger how you think about maybe playing a game or playing a scenario. But it is a fun game. Nothing really crazy happened, so I'm not gonna like talk really huge on it or anything. It was just a good slugfest. I had a little bit of an advantage when we first started in our lines clash due to the fact that I had better shooting against his guys, and then throughout the game it kind of just went back and forth. I mean, it ended up with me winning, I think 3-0, just because I scored more points. I didn't wound Durin, didn't ever think I was going to. Was able to protect Saruman pretty well, so there wasn't really a whole lot of points. I think I might have actually scored double, but I kind of was losing. I kind of was losing track. That's sometimes something that happens too. Is like when you're teaching somebody the game or trying to like give advice or something, you end up forgetting the little things like yourself. And I think there's a couple times I kind of screwed myself where I did a wound to a leader, but didn't give myself the wound. Like they burn the fate and deny it, but I don't think I gave myself the point for them burning the fate point. Or like I did a wound and they burned their one fate point. For example, with the King's Champ, the two heralds have 2 fate points, and I was targeting the heralds pretty heavily with magic when it came to like Sorcerer's Blasts and moving them around to put them in a position where I could like try and kill them with my warriors, and that worked out really well because I think I ended up getting rid of one or both of them. And I do remember I got at least a might point back for killing one of them. So like I said, I don't remember. It was one of those ones where it's like I maybe needed one more wound that I probably got and didn't count to get a double score victory, for doubling wounds. But I was like, I don't really care. I wasn't coming. It's Isengard. It's basic, Isengard with some troops. It's not overly powerful. It's not gonna, beat the world. So I didn't really care if I won or if I lost or whatever. I just wanted to have fun, and I think it was actually a really fun game. Chris was a really nice guy. He was really open to talking and learning and taking advice. That's one of the great things I like is like newer players, even if you've played games before, this game system is much different than any other game system, and it really changes how you have to think about things from a strategic standpoint and a tactical standpoint when trying to play the game. 40K is a cool game and all, but the way it's played compared to MESBG, and I use that because it's the most common transfer platform. Most players come from 40K. It's a different game. Melee is huge, so your positioning is huge. So that was round 1. I won. Round 2, I ended up playing against Talon Jordan, and he was playing Rivendell Knights. But unlike Joe's Rivendell Knights, that's what Joe took, Joe had allied Fellowship with Legolas and Gandalf. Talon had allied Aragorn, which I thought was brilliant because it gave him a higher model count due to the fact that he didn't have a third hero. Now, it did kind of hurt him because of the fact that the scenario we played was divide and conquer, where you deploy in the alternating corners, and you're trying to get to the middle of the board to control the three objective markers that are there in the middle. So this was actually a very fun game. Talon beat me handily. I'll just say that now. Did not think I was going to win, but we both played and just had some fun. So I ended up deploying and having Lotr and crap, I can't think of his name. Lotr and Saruman. There we go. Those two warbands I put in one corner, and I put Snaga and Maher in the other corner. And the reason I did that is because of the fact that Lotr has the bigger warband than Maher. He also has more might, so I wanted to keep more might near my leader. Well, he did exactly what I expected. He deployed Aragorn by himself in one corner, and then Elrond and his cadre of Rivendell Knights in the other one, and he went right for Snaga and Maher's two warbands, which were in the one corner. And that is perfectly smart. It's brilliant, because Snaga with his 6 guys and Maher leading the smallest of the Isengard Uruk-Hai warbands, go kill the guys that have no strikers, no magic, no nothing crazy you have to worry about. That being said, nothing crazy you have to worry about ended up being something crazy that I had to worry about. And that was, crazy as it sounds, there's a theme with this, crazy, shooting. Holy shit. And there's my one for the algorithms. My shooting was ridiculously good. Like, unproportionally good, even for a 50-50. So I had 4 bow shots in that warband, and I had 2 or 3 turns to shoot before I had to worry about these guys coming at me. Because I decided, instead of trying to run towards the middle, I would just stay. As soon as he showed me what he was going to do, it was like, oh, I'm just going to sit put. I'm going to make you come as far over to my side as you have to possibly come. So I got 2 turns off shooting fully, no issues. So this is how it went down. Shoot my 4 shots. I would shoot through one guy and into a second. I think the first turn, 1 shot got through, and the other 3 hit the horse, and the horse didn't die, which is crazy, because strength 4 on defense 4, you need 4s, and the horse was just like, yeah, I'm just going to brush these off. I don't remember exactly if it was 1, 2, however many, but he brushed them off. The one bow that got through hit the rider and killed. And I was like, cool, I'll take that. Second turn of shooting, do it again. Get a kill and a dismount. I'm like, cool, I'll definitely take that. So while that's going on, I'm actually marching with my drum and with my other guys, from my corner towards the middle of the board. Again, like I said, not really worried about Grima getting left behind, because I knew I would have time after I got to the middle of the board. My whole thing is I wanted to get to the middle of the board, set up a archery line, and then when he finished, destroying my 2 warbands in the one corner, and he was coming towards the middle, I would be able to, shoot at him at my leisure to take him down, hopefully. So the first turn of combat, he charges in with Aragorn, who is coming from the opposite corner, and gets into 3 guys. Okay, no surprise. That's what Aragorn's going to do. Aragorn's going to do a free heroic combat, most likely go and mop up everybody on that side in 1 turn. I said, you know what? I'm not going to let that happen. I say mop up everybody in 1 turn because, there's 2-pronged attack. So I had the Isengard guys, the Uruk-Hai going towards the Rivendell Knights, and then I had the orcs going to fight Aragorn. I said, okay, that's fine. I charged Snaga in. And I kid you not, never have I seen anybody do this heroic action in an event, and it might never ever happen again, but well, that's not true. I saw it once 4 years ago. I called a heroic challenge with Snaga. Yes, Snaga has heroic challenge. Cool. So I challenged Aragorn with Snaga, and Talon's like, okay, sure. Well, he 1-hit KO'd him. Okay, he just took him out. Kind of expected that. Was hoping maybe it would take 2 turns. didn't really see it taking 2 turns, but the reason I did that is because when you do the challenge, they're locked into combat. So the fact that he had charged into like 2 or 3 guys, like I said, he was probably going to cut the heads off all of them and then roll into 2 or 3 more guys, and there goes all my orcs on that side. So in 1 turn, he would have taken everybody out, and he would have been pushing towards the middle a lot sooner. Well, by doing the challenge, I was able to move the orcs away, and then he was forced to just fight for 1 turn against 1 guy. Yep, he did it. He killed Snaga. Unfortunately, he ended up rolling a 5 for his D3 points of might, so he had Aragorn with 6+1 for the rest of the game. That sucked. I was hoping for the middle rope where he'd just get 2 might. But my main point, and when I told him why I did it afterwards, he's like, I really respect that. It's a smart idea, is to keep Aragorn from 1 turn killing all my orcs and stuff on that side. It ended up taking Aragorn 3 turns to kill all my orcs. So there you go. And by the time that happened, my Isengard boys from the opposite corner that were marching to the center of the board were in the center of the board, and they were lined up. So the next turn, after he finished mopping them and started moving towards the center, I was putting bow shots towards Aragorn in them. So, yeah, that's great. On the other side, fighting against the knights with Maher and the Uruk-Hai didn't go so well. They pretty much got ran over, but it did take the same amount of time. Maher actually did a really good job. Charged in, was able to cut the head off of 2 knights in 1 turn. And he went down the next turn, but I mean, he's not a super expensive guy. I think he's 60 points. But for him to go and take the heads off of 2 knights, it's a low model count army. So he didn't make his points up, but he's 2/3 of the way there, and he got my opponent 2 models closer to breaking. I'll take that. That's really good for me. So by the time he ended up finishing everybody off on that corner, on that side of the board, and started moving towards the center from my deployment end, he had lost, I want to say, 4 guys in combat and 3 or 4 guys in shooting with another dismount. So there was a fair amount of guys that I had taken down in fighting and shooting and all that. So I was very happy and very impressed with what they did, which put me in a really good situation to maybe, if I'm lucky, win the middle and maybe get a minor win for the game. Like I said at the beginning, long story short, he didn't. But again, my shooting worked asininely well. Took a couple more guys off their horses. Killed at least 1 more guy. Sorcerers blasted a dude into Elrond. Killed that guy. Dismounted Elrond. Sweet. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Unfortunately, what ended up hurting me in the long run was the fact that he had both of his heroes together, and they were just better heroes than mine. Aragorn ended up getting into Saruman, and Lurtz was able to go in there and help him for a turn. Grima did a pretty good job forcing him to decide not to do strikes and combats and stuff. Unfortunately, it was one of those things where it's like I said, my army wanted to work on synergy, and with the army being split up in 2 deployment zones, the synergy was gone. But long story short, I ended up breaking, not getting priority, so I couldn't call movement. I couldn't call my stand fast with my heroes, and so then my heroes all ended up, or my troops started just fleeing because of the fact that there was no heroes to support them. It happens. Ended up being a 10-1 major loss for me. He had all 3 of the objectives well in hand, killed my leader, and broke me, but was also broken himself, which is how I scored my 1 and kept him from scoring a full 12. So, fun game. Really fun game. Talon is a really nice guy. Very good player. he was just kind of laughing. He's like, "You can see how serious I am." And like, it's like I've got like all these guys. Like, it's not that. Like, it's a good army, dude. He's like, "Well, I won my first game, but it wasn't through anything smart." I was like, it's a tough army, and I told him, I was like, "I've been playing against Joe, and to be fair, I wasn't helping myself because I had been thinking about taking Corsairs to this event." So I was playing Corsairs, which are a shooting heavy army, against Rivendell Knights that had Gandalf, who just channeled Blinding Light and completely nullified all my Corsair shooting. So I didn't really feel confident going into the event playing Corsairs, and that's why I ended up taking Isengard. But it was a good game. He played well. Stand-up guy, really nice. Enjoyed chatting with him throughout the game and afterwards. That's one of the things. Like, I want to go and I want to go have fun. I don't care if I win. If I lose, I want to lose to a guy who is gracious in victory. Very gracious in victory. He gave me all the credit. Didn't take any for himself other than the fact that, he just had fast movers and stuff. And it's like, nah, man, you played smart. He played very smart. So, again, great game. So, I'm 1-1 at this point with a minor victory and a major loss. I know I have 0 chance of podium. I'm just looking to maybe be in the upper half of the board if I can win round 2 or round 3. And even if I win round 3, unless it's a major, I'm probably not even gonna score super high. I figured if I can make top 10, which in a 16-person event would be good for me. So I ended up playing against Robert, which is awesome, Robert Lotr. And Robert has run a lot of events, and he's come to a number of mine. And great guy. Longtime friend to us here in the Carolinas, stand-up guy. Just there's not enough you can say about him. So the only thing I can say is he copied my damn army. There's 2 for the algorithm. So he basically was playing almost a carbon copy of my army, outside of a few changes. So no Grima for him, no Snaga obviously, but he had Maher, he had Lurtz. He had Saruman, and he had, what was it, one of the Dunlending heroes. I don't remember who it was. Or maybe he didn't have Dunlending hero. He had Dunlending guys. I remember that. I can't remember if he had a Dunlending hero or just was... Oh, yeah, the Wildman. That's it. The Wildman Oathmaker. That was his Snaga. Because he had, the Wildman, because they're fearless. So there you go. I knew there was something. Then he had a drummer and a banner. Yeah. Like I said, no Grima. But also Saruman, obviously. So he outmodeled me. And so the scenario was assassination. And it's one of those scenarios where, you forget that drummers are minor heroes. Yeah, because he had his drum in a warband. Actually, no, I'm sorry. He had his drum as a solo drum. Which I always take my minor heroes like that in a war, or an independent hero, in a warband. It's an independent. I don't think it's a minor. My apologies. I'm pretty sure he's an independent. Yeah, independent. Just went and looked. But I always put my independents in with another warband, just because of the fact that, as cool as it is to have a solo drop in standard, typical deployment like assassination, the alternating ones where you're doing divide and conquer, where you have to go from one side to the other, that can work for you or it can screw you because of that. And maelstroms. So I was glad there wasn't any maelstrom at this event, which was cool, because most places don't do the house rule that we do, which is alternating. They just play it as is, and maelstroms are the most broken deployment game of all through all those. That entire scenario pool is just broken. So anyway, we had pretty much the same army composition. And with it being assassination, you have to pick somebody that you're trying to kill and somebody that you're trying to kill him with. So I naturally went with Lurtz because he's going to be my best killer. And that works because I have Saruman as my leader. And I chose his drummer because the drummer is a very weak hero that can be killed. So we deploy, and we literally spent the first few turns just kind of feeling each other out. So he got priority, and he kind of shuffled a little bit, and I literally actually just stood fast and shot. I think there was one thing I did that he had a couple War Grinders, and he was kind of like moving them around to line them up for throwing spears, I think. And I popped out with Saruman, Sorcerers blasted them. One of them died, the other one was prone, something like that. It took away their ability to do anything range-wise. Shooting, he had more shots than me because he had scouts in Maher's warband. So he had paid for the 8-inch movement and the scout, the Uruk-Hai bow. So he ended up having more shooting than me. But again, this was another game where my shooting did better for me than I expected. And I shot a few. You know, he shot at me. I don't think he did much. I shot at him. Got a few kills. So, you know, not bad. I actually shot with Lotr, because Lotr has an Urk bow, and you always forget it that he does have it. So I went ahead and shot with Lotr, and, you know, didn't do anything. So then turn 2, we start shuffle again. And I actually shuffled a bit. And actually, I don't think I shot with Lotr the first turn because it wasn't in range because it was 18 inches. So then turn 2, I shuffled a bit. Not a lot because I kept most of my crossbow stationary again to do shooting. He shuffled a bit. Again, nothing crazy. I think we threw a couple spells back and forth at each other. I think turn 1, he'd put Terrifying Aura up. Nothing too crazy. Some more shooting. I think he got one or two of my guys, and I got more of his guys than I expected. And I'm pretty sure turn 2 is when I was in range and I shot with Lotr. So turn 3, and I think I had priority turn 2. So to turn 3, he gets priority. He moves. Or did I have priority? I don't remember. Turn 3, we move. The big thing that happened was he moved the drummer out from behind cover. And we were playing on like a Lake Town board. So he moved it out from behind a Lake Town house. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, he left the drum, so I had an open shot at him with Lotrs and 4 crossbows. And I'm like, there's my victory point sitting right there in the open. No in the ways, no nothing. He's defense 5, I think. So my strength 3 and strength 4 Uruk bow and crossbow bows are doing 5s to wound. Yes, I know he's got a fate. I am putting 5 shots at this guy. I'm going to go kill him. So we get into shooting phase. And again, I don't remember who went first, but I was like, all right, so actually you're going to start over here. And you know what? I'm just going to throw Lurtz's Uruk bow again. Hey, there's your drummer. You know what? I'll target your drummer just to make sure you can't do anything with like your flanking maneuver. Because, like I said, he had Maher with some movement, 8 guys, and he had started shifting sideways. And I played it off. You play the sportsman thing. Yeah, make sure you can't move like 11 inches and try and flank me on that side or blah, blah, blah. I shoot. I hit. Not expecting to hit, but hey, I hit. Rolled a wound. Fully willing to spend all 3 points of might to wound this drummer, because if Lurtz does it, there's 7 victory points. So I roll and I wound, just naturally. I think I hit on a 4 and wounded on a 5, both natural rolls. I was like, fuck yes. And I'm sitting here now like, poker face. Come on, Jason, poker face. Don't give it away. Because he's got a fate point, and if he passes it, and then I go and flub it with my other 4 crossbows, he's going to know exactly what I'm doing, and he's going to spend the rest of the game hiding, and it's going to screw me. So he rolls his fate, and it's like a 1 or a 2. And the drummer goes bye-bye, and on like turn 2 or 3, I had 7 victory points. And I'm just sitting there going, sweet! Been in this situation before and lost the game. Let's not do that again. And I almost actually did lose the game. So next turn, he moved, and he had been creeping around my one side. He pulled Maher out with Lurtz. Not Lurtz. Wow, my bad. His Saruman. And the first time I was able to resist it, and I think it was that turn when I had shot and killed the drummer that he first tried it. And then the second turn, I'm out of will, and he just did it. And not really realizing, like, that's the guy he's going for. Because at this point, I'm still trying to protect my drummer and Grima. Because while he can't attack Grima, with ranged attacks and melee, he can hit him with Sorcerer's Blast. And if Grima goes down, it's one of those things where it's like, if you pick Grima, the only way to kill him and get your 7 points is to first kill Saruman, which I didn't see happening. But sometimes you're willing to sacrifice victory points in order to secure a greater amount. 7 victory points is what you get for killing your target with the assassin. But killing your target straight up is still 5. And sometimes it's like, well, I'll sacrifice the 2 in order to get the kill and get my 5 victory points. So I was kind of worried about that happening with the drum and with Grima. So I was kind of focusing too much on those and worrying about his magic than I was actually thinking about who his target could be outside of those guys. Snagga kept Snagga pretty well hidden. Literally made him a Might Mule. But no, his target was Maher. And I made the same mistake that I made earlier this year, where I had the game won, and this was partly my mistake and partly not. So he ended up pulling Maher out and jumping on top of him. And so then I actually went and Sorcerer's Blasted on my movement phase, one of his guys, which knocked everybody in the combat prone, so I was able to save Maher for a turn. Hindsight's 2020. I should have just let him kill Maher, because what I wasn't paying attention to was the fact that first turn he had no heroes in combat against Maher, which means that if he killed him, the best he could score was 5, and I still would have won 7-5. Well, long story short, the game keeps going. We're killing models one side or the other. I actually wasn't losing that many models. I was killing more than being killed. The issue was that, again, with 38 models, I thought I had a pretty good model count, but he had 45 or 44 or something like that. So I had to kill vastly more than what I had to make it up, and it was kind of hard to do. I also had a hard time committing forces to one side or the other, not knowing exactly what he was going to do, and who exactly he was targeting. But it wasn't until the very end of the game where he had moved Maher all the way across from one side of the board to the other and got him in against my Maher, and his Maher struck the final blow. And I was in no position whatsoever at that point in the game to be able to stop it. And that gave him his 7 points, which sucked, because it was funny. He pulled his paper out after the game. He's like, yeah, look, Maher with Maher. I thought that was kind of funny. And I was like, and I would have never thought that. But he did end up killing his Maher, or my Maher with his Maher. But I got just lucky enough where my strength 4 guys, I was able to win enough and kill enough guys in the last turn that I got 2 more than was necessary to break him. And I was unbroken. So instead of it being a 7-7 tie, I ended up pulling out a 10-7 victory. And so this is something I want to say too. And this isn't a shot at the TO Caleb. Caleb is a nice guy. He did a really good job running the event. The one thing I would say, if you do listen to this, constructive criticism as someone who's run close to 24 events now, this was his second event that he's run, and you could tell he's kind of new to running them. And it's hard as a TO to take a back seat and not commentate, and I have been guilty of doing this myself. So I'm not saying this as a snob at you, Caleb. I'm saying this as somebody who has made this mistake before. As a TO, you can't stand at a table and give advice or give plays or assume how an outcome of a game is going to be just because you see one play, which is what ended up happening in our situation. He actually had done that several times throughout the day, where he would come over and was giving advice to my table, I'm sure he did it to others, but my table in particular, the first a couple times it happened was in the first game. Didn't really matter because, like I said, new player. I want him to learn and listen to everything. Second game, Talon actually did a really good job of being like, nope, go away, nope. And I was like, I'm sitting there going, yeah, that's kind of what you got to do. Didn't happen really all that much in the third game, except for the one instance on this particular spot is he came over. We were one of the last games going, and he ended up seeing the result of the Maher killing Maher, and then just instantly assumed that Robert won the game. But what happened was the rest of the combats then happened, and I broke him and was unbroken. So when we turned our score sheets in and it said 10-7, he instantly assumed that Robert won 10-7. So, Caleb, I know it's your second event. So again, not knocking you, just saying, be cognizant to the fact that there are lots more things going on. And just, take your time. And I say this to any TO, because I really like the fact that TOs, people want to be TOs and run games. It helps because I think running an event, you get a greater appreciation for how much work and effort goes into it than if you're just always playing. And there's been some really stupid people who've said some really stupid things about TOs and how they run events, or like situations personally where I've played in one of my little small local ones and someone's like, oh, well, how's that fair? If you're running the event, you have all the inside knowledge. I was like, yeah, maybe I do, but it's no different than the knowledge that you have. So how is that? And it's a small event. I mean, it's not like Nova or any of the big ones, the big cons, Adepticon or Ardacon, whatever, whichever one's in Chicago. So yeah, a little bit of constructive criticism. And Caleb's a great guy. I think if you do hear this, Caleb, I fully expect that you'll probably just be sitting there like, yeah, you're right. I can look back, and I totally think that you can take and respect the constructive criticism. So that's why I don't mind passing it on. Now, for someone who I didn't think could take it, I wouldn't. And it's also good for anybody, like I said, who's looking to run an event in the future. You have to kind of step back, and you're putting it on, but in the end of the day, this is kind of a knock on my own self. It's like you're nothing more than a data junkie, because all you're doing is putting something out there. People are doing something with that data, i.e. your scenarios, and then they're giving you data that you have to take and put into whatever algorithm you use and determine who's an outcome, i.e. your scores and spreadsheets. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm giggling at myself. But yeah, back to the event. That was my little side caveat. I'm sure you guys don't mind. But I ended up winning that game. Minor victory, 10-7. So I ended up with 2 minor victories and a major loss, which gave me 6 total tournament points and 14 total victory points, which put me literally middle of the pack, slightly above average at 7th out of 16. So, yay! Like I said, I don't really care about my ranking. Made top 10. That was my big thing I wanted to do. So, yay, I made top 10. Had a lot of fun. Isengard's a really fun army. I had 3 really good opponents, and that's the big thing is like when you go to an event, you're hoping to have 3 really fun games. I had no issue with any of my opponents in any 3 of my games. They were all great folks, stand-up folks in the community, stand-up folks in life, in my opinion, from what I could gather. Just lots of fun. I definitely look forward to going back up there again and enjoying some more games with them. Hopefully, maybe some of them can come down our way, Maybe it'll work out that way in the future where they can come to some of our events. Isengard, really impressed with what they did. I probably will set them aside for now. We have talked about going to Nova this year, and so Joe and Dan are trying to convince me to get back into playing an army that I did really good with before that I don't play anymore, which is one you might see. So, yeah, all right, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up here because I think it's close to an hour now. Surprise, surprise, me getting on and just blabbering for an hour. Please like, share, subscribe. It's 2024. I mean, maybe we can all make a New Year's resolution to help support our, our group, our community by supporting individual channels, because I can tell you right now that there are lots of folks who watch my videos. I see all the stuff. I'm not a huge channel, but there's not a lot of folks who subscribe. You can see by the stats on the screen that'll come up. Less than 35% subscribe. So please, please, please hit that subscribe button. I mean, it's one of those things where you can subscribe and then filter it out later by just scrolling past it. It doesn't hurt you. And you never know. Maybe something like this, you can gain a kernel of wisdom. Never hurts. But until next time, please like, share, subscribe. Please enjoy your Middle-earth strategy battle game hobby. Please enjoy your 2024 year. I hope it's a great one for everyone. And for everybody who I see, I look forward to traveling and seeing you in person. Take care.